Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SafeDev Talk all-in-one security without silos. I'm pleased to have you with us for this new edition of our SafeDev series, where we focus on practical ways to secure modern software development without adding more complexity or more load to the teams. Today's sessions addresses a common challenge, having too many tools with too little visibility. Teams are juggling with different platforms for SaaS, SEA, secrets, and even more. Okay. The thing is, each of them has their own alerts, dashboards, priorities, policies, everything. As a result, alert fatigue, duplication of risk, missed threats, and waste effort. At the end, why we are here to talk about a different approach, having one platform, one view of everything, removing silos and searching for more efficiency and more things. The idea is to cover in the next hour how the fragmented tools fails to deliver, was the meaningful integration across all the application static analysis tools looks like, and how the context and correlation help the teams to focus on what is really important. Okay. To help us to explore all these topics today, I'm pleased to present we come with Alexandre Blanc, that is cybersecurity advisor, industry thought leader, and expert in several standards like ISO 27001, who brings deep experience helping organizations navigate the complex security challenges also. Welcome, Alexandre. And
Thank
thank
you
you
for
for
having me.
being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to join and happy to see the lights are up. To put in context, it's the day yesterday Spain went out of power. I was so scared. So I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to be there. And I like the mission and, the topic we're going to cover. I'm known for speaking and complaining about the cloud leaks, which is, a consequence of bad practice in or bad visibility in development platforms. So I'm happy to share about this point and see where we can get, what identify everything you say. So excited.
Fantastic. The idea is, as mentioned before, is just to share experience because in addition to this experience, you have been working in the development software a lot of years also and supporting this activity in companies. So the idea is to provide to the audience some tips, learnings, experiences, so they can apply these ideas in their day-to-day after this session. So although I'm in Sayeni, the idea of these sessions is not talking about the specific product, it's just to share knowledge and to share experience and to people have more knowledge and more uh, data or information to decide how to proceed. So yeah, fantastic. Just to start, why I introduced the question before is why a fragmented security fails? Why having these a lot of different tools introduce a lot of, or what are the issues that having everything separated introduce complexity, or why is a point of improvement for the companies? At the end, probably enterprises, big corporates at least, has more than 10 security tools to cover all the software development life cycles. So it's okay. We have different points and could provide confusion and the topics that we have mentioned before. According to your experience, Alexandre, what's your first advice for large organization or for organization in order to try to to improve or to operate with this configuration of the security tools?
Yeah, so one key aspect around that is, and it's always something I've seen in many places, is about identifying the stakeholders, who's deciding what. Because what happened, as you said, like organizations tend to work in siloed or projects, and everybody work on a project thinks it's entitled to its own like total freedom and independence in regard to the rest of the organization. But then it usually bring a nightmare on governance, on unified security. And what happened is, like, people take a project, they develop something as a draft, and then the draft move to something bigger and without establish anything formal. And then we have like different tools, different environment, and no formal management, responsibility, accountability. And also, the thing is about, there is one thing, it's the development of a product, of a software, and the other side is security and privacy, data governance. And usually, people say about you have to do that from the get-go, but this is not what happened in real life. In real life, you get, like, organization get an idea, they want to build a product, and they need to draft something. And that draft is not about compliance, it's not about privacy, it's just about, can we get something to work? Does it make sense? So that's the first step that creates a silo, an isolation of a project. And then the question is, when are we going to catch up with that? How is it going to be integrated with the rest of the organization? So that's the main key. And you see that it starts from the get-go. The beginning start kind of wrong, but there is no many way. So the challenge for organization is identify when it is time to look into that and actually make sure it's getting aligned with the expectation of the organization, which is accountability, security, and governance.
Yeah, I think it's really important. What you mean is you have mentioned something important that I took a note for later, is that there is not responsibility of, or the responsibility is limited in the sense, okay, my responsibility is this product, or is just this type of security risk. I only take care of the vulnerabilities in the code, or no, I put the security in the pipelines or security in the components, depending on the role you have in the process of development. And I think this is as you build, or the companies build the bottom up, the solution, at the end, small tools start growing in different teams, and it's difficult to provide this umbrella to cover all of them. And yes, as you mentioned, at the end, each team generate their own alerts. They prioritize depending on their own objectives, not the global objectives of the company, or even what is better for the application in the terms of improvements in security. These are, I think, the main signs or clue to detect that something is not integrated and needs some work in order to improve the security part. Mm-hmm. Very important. Okay, go ahead, Alexandre.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. And there's so many. We can dive into that because you said, I was speaking about the global administrative control,
Mm-hmm.
the leadership, and that. But then if we go technical, there's so many consideration from security, vulnerability, library that I use, and the licensing. Because from a business standpoint, the licensing is a key risk for organization. I've been working in a company previously that was actually doing private software for a third party. And if any developer would bring any GPL code, like open source, and I'm an open source guy, I love it. I'm a Linux guy, etc. But if you do produce a software that you expect to sell with a private license, then you cannot use public like GPL based licenses, because these licenses, a single line of this code, make all your code like mandatory to be public, so you cannot own it. So that's a kind of risk, and that's like one single part. We don't speak about dependency, we don't speak about vulnerability, we don't speak about memory leak. We just speak about one strategical mistake from one developer that can jeopardize the whole ownership and even the business model of the organization. So that's a big challenge, because as a IT director by then and security director, when you come to people say, nah, you cannot use that library, because developers are pressing, they have deadlines and stuff, they have to go fast, and the fastest way for them is to pull a library that exists and use it. But if suddenly you tell them, no, you cannot use that and you have to rewrite it, it's like, what, in my deadline? That's from the field. And then and then if the project fail, it's like the security guy, the compliance guy, or they didn't tell us soon enough, and stuff like that. So that's a lot of aspect to consider from a practical standpoint.
Yeah, and this aspects has to be transversal to all organizations, and someone in the C-level should say this is mandatory, this applies to all the applications, and if you don't have a mechanisms to ensure that all the applications goes through all the same security checks, or the same, or you don't check against the same policy or security policy, there are problems at the end, as you mentioned. And the thing is, the CISO or the C-level decide the requirements from these aspects that are not, as you mentioned, only security technical point of view, but affect to the application. Really, really good. In parallel, at the same time, when you ask to the responsibles or the leaders in the teams, at the end, all of them say, no, I have all the tools integrated. I have everything in one dashboard in the Dojo or other, whatever different. At the end, is okay. Yes, but you are using a lot of manual effort, or you are dedicating a lot of effort to do manual activities just to try to have something global, or just to have one point of dashboarding. But the thing is, even when you put everything together, you have a global overview or global dashboard, but you still are missing important information to actually extract insights that are valid or provide additional value to the security practice. I don't know, how do you see this part of these integrations of different tools with limited achievement or impact in the security?
Yeah, so the challenge is, we're back to accountability and what you spoke about the board members. They want to have accountability, and managers to show that the KPI, the value they have, is actually matching the requirement. So they will not take your word for it. I mean, if it's a small group at first, yes, but if the company grows and the infrastructure get more complex and with different projects ongoing, you need actually tools to bring visibility. So you cannot do that manually. And for anyone that have been digging into code analysis, I mean, between you have some automation on the side, but if you want to do like project by project, then you pull that between the false positive and the work you have to do to review all of that. And if it's not unified, then you have to do that job as many times as you have projects. So the way, like asking for a dashboard and global visibility and on the total scope of the development, is a great way to avoid doing the same work over and over again. Like, one of the practical thing, again, organization work on a project, they need a library, and that library for the licensing is need to be cleared by the legal advisory board. That can happen, so you can use it, yes, which version, because also people don't realize that, but each time there is a new release of a software, they can be changing the license, they can be changing the dependencies, so that actually change the applicability and the right to use it or not. So when this is done on one unit, on one project, if it's not unified in a centralized platform, then the other group might go through the same process of doing the same assessment again, and this is wasting time for the whole organization. While if it's unified and you have a global view of all of it, you have somehow a library of validated tools and platform, like both on the side of the control and security and compliance, and both from the usability side. Like if a team did use that library already, they can actually pull it and use it as well, and it's already there, so they don't have to do the work of assessing if it's worth it again. So just from a practical standpoint, so that would be my take. And this is where consolidation and global visibility is key for maintaining efficiency and actually quality and speed on the development of the software development lifecycle. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. I think yes, and even I will remember that this type of consolidation is not just aggregation. It's needs some type of smart thinking or additional value in order. Okay, it's not just to put everything together. It's not okay. You have this license. It's just to use the context or to try to put more information to refine the finding of the different tool. For example, you have this library, but is affecting only this module, for example, and you should know, okay, this module affect only this application, not the full application, for example. It's just to extract context information that is not just the finding of the report, just to deduplicate, to correlate in order to say, okay, you have 3 issues, but if you solve this one, you remove 3 of them, for example. So this type of intelligence is not just about aggregating data, pure data, let's say. You need a post process that refine and remove the noise, or just to support, okay, or extract something that is not in the data. It's like interpret the data in order to provide you more information for decision, or having something that is not something that you can see directly, reviewing the data in order to facilitate the later processes regarding prioritization, or decision regarding you can use this or not, because probably the module or you are affecting with this problem with the license is something that you are going to provide open source, for example, but you are protecting the general application. So this kind of decision is needed. It's not just to put everything in an Excel, let's say, and have the Excel with the full list with things. And no, I have everything integrated, and then I can count how many critical, how many high, how many SAST, how many
Yeah.
components. It's just to work with the information, just to have more refined capabilities.
Yeah, that's the impact analysis of a change of anything.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have the visibility, the full inventory, this is pretty much like in general
Mhm.
cybersecurity, where you need inventory, you need to know what you have to actually handle the risk and reduce the actual potential impact of anything. And this is leading, well, what you define, like it's SBOM, like software bill of material. Like
Mhm.
know what is where in your stack, so as you can assess an impact of anything. Where we all have in mind the big incident of supply chain in software management, and the big challenge is always for organization. The first question that comes when something wrong happens is, am I impacted? What range of
Yeah.
the product is impacted? Even if we see like CVEs, they always say like, yo, the vulnerability impact that from version that to that version. And that you can only prove that data if you have the full visibility on it, like to understand the full scope of it. And if you don't, you have to manually dig into that, and then that's super long, and then you raise the exposure time for the customer, the user, or even yourself, if this is software you use for your own company. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned the important thing is the impact. If I remove something, or how big is the real risk, or how I'm going to improve the security posture of my application if I remove this specific issue. The impact is very, very interesting. And in fact, if I'm able to measure or to predict the impact, I'm going to, but it support me to be more proactive, not just reactive. Not I have this in production, this risk in production. Okay, let's see how to solve it. No. Before reaching production environment, what I have to solve, because probably I don't have to solve everything because it's not impacting, it's not reachable from internet, for example, or different things. What practices or what recommendations you do for measuring this impact or supporting the organizations to be more proactive instead so reactive with risk management?
So obviously we need automation in that process. We need to use intelligence feeds. And when I say intelligence feeds, it's information about CVs, it's information about licensing. This is a tool that can actually categorize the software tools, the libraries, parts that is used in the process. And because in the end, also, like, one of the key thing that lead to that is we sometimes have due diligence requirement for project
Hmm.
and development. If you sell something, or even if you buy something, or if you have business partners, or sometimes investors, they want you to actually own the full information about what you do. It's not, they don't want, no one want to fly blind. So the automation is key. But although, as me, being me, I always want to have some overlapping controls, because sometimes automation brings false positive. So it should do
Yeah.
like the heavy lifting, but we still need some proper skilled people owning the project. And this is back to the stakeholder that we were speaking in the beginning. Like, once you establish who owns what and who owns the responsibility, these automated tool should land in the hand of someone who's aware of its work. It has to be the owner, because and that means that their time is not going to be spent wasting, like viewing manually or comparing file or change and stuff like that. It's going to allow them to validate and ensure that the information pulled by the automation is right. And by
Hmm.
chance, if it's consolidated, the work they do once will be applied to many projects again. So that's the importance of having a standardized approach in the software development stack, so as the effort done once doesn't have to be done again and again and again. Because I've been in situation when, we had, like, as you said before, Excel sheets with list of libraries and version, and you go to project 1 and then suddenly you go to project 2 because it has never been done before, so you need to start somewhere. And then you realize that all the information there was the same as the other one, and you just wish you had first something that gives you that kind of visibility over the whole development stack, over the whole code source repository, whether it be inside or outside, doesn't matter, because you need to see that. So that's my So my answer were like, ramp up whatever automated tool that can do the heavy lifting, but still own it. Because like the magic promise of like AI doing like everything for you, well, in the end, I know you love that stuff, but not just kidding. But the thing is, the human in control, the stakeholder, the manager, and in the end, over in the company, the board is responsible for all of it. So you need to actually vet the result. Just take any tool you want to save you time, but then you still need to validate it, so you still need to own it. You need to understand what's happening and be able to decide. If you have the right visibility, again, as you were saying, Jesús, before, like when I need to pull out a library and I have to know what it impacts in the software stack, you need to know how big is the impact for the tool. Is it affecting a critical operational capability of the tool, or is it just an accessory, like something that is barely used, or convenient stuff that we can get rid of temporarily without impacting the customer? So that's the kind of decision that will be made on top of the value added by the automated tool. So that's where,
Yeah, I agree. At the end is this kind of decisions and automation. And automation has enabled to do this type of enrichment or decision out in real time, let's say. Each time that I'm running the CI/CD pipeline in order to integrate and to do everything. And I think that the most interesting things that has been integrated in these steps are, for example, reachability for components. Not only you mentioned before the SBOM, where you have all the license, all the vulnerabilities, but as you mentioned before, okay, I have all the vulnerabilities in my components, but actually, which ones are impacting me? Because at the end, not all of the vulnerabilities are affecting my application. And automation has enabled, for example, the reachability analysis, okay, to detect this is not, or I'm not going through this vulnerable part in the component that is impossible to do manually. You cannot discover all the flows and to check all the paths. It's impossible. So automation has been very important way to do this analysis in real time. So you can discard, okay, this is not affecting, this is not affecting, and these are actually the other part. And the other type of automations, for example, regarding secrets that you mentioned before. Okay, you have a secret, but the important thing is valid. It's affecting me because probably it's an old secret that is not vulnerable or is not exploitable. So automation allows to go to the end system to validate. If it's valid, okay, stop here. If not, go ahead. You have the secret here for your knowledge, but it's not affecting your security, for example. So automation in internal analysis of the tools and talking or integrating with third parties systems are enable these type of decisions that you mentioned. Okay, that goes through the not considering the list, but just to put the intelligence and to doing these more interesting checks. So yeah.
And I want to add, like something changed also in the reality. You spoke about the CI/CD, which is like, we tend to deliver service application now. Before, we used to have waterfall development. You release an application that run locally in a machine. But nowadays, like most of the stuff is web application. It's API data handling. So that means that the software released is like live, publicly exposed. So the criticality of automation is even higher, because while before running a software on a local machine that is like isolated was not as a huge issue as like some public cloud exposed application, or some, even if people run serverless application, which is still code and application. And if you run something which has a vulnerability, it's live, it's out there. So there is no, like, you don't have time to search and manually do the work. You need the automation to help you reduce that exposure. And that's, I think, the new reality, a new dimension of enterprises today. I mean, is speaking French now,
Yeah, yeah.
is about reducing that exposure, because you have your CI/CD, you build, you have the automation. If you don't scan, and that thing is released in production, you have the staging, production, but the delivery time to the production is really short. So you need as fast detection, as fast analysis and
Analysis.
decision capability
Yeah.
as you release fast. So it's like continuous stuff after all. And I don't think like any human will do that 24/7. So the more your tool stack is bringing you alarm, doing the heavy lifting, and you just basically in the end you push button to make decision, yes, no, remove that stuff, and take decision faster. And that's a reality. I mean, because you got me there, so I'm the anti-cloud guy. I'm the cloud equal leak guy. But the thing is, it's because there is a big shift in reality. If you
Yeah.
develop like you were developing local application for publicly exposed live running stuff, then we're gonna face what we face now, all the issues. So you're right. I mean, the automation, the intelligence, the capability of the tool is highly critical. It should like run crazy fast and efficient, but at the same time, we need human that actually are able to analyze the stuff and quickly decide yes, no, yes, no, yeah, like the
Yeah.
ultimate sorter, and make sure that if the machine does a mistake, we can actually get back and adjust it. So but if it's fast enough and with skill enough and the right tools and the right consolidation, this
Yeah.
can be done, and we can reduce, because the effort of the attacker, in the end, this is that to exploit anything. If you're fast enough, they will not even bother, because they know that the effort they need to exploit your stack, then it will not be worth it, because the time they reach to an exploit or anything, you will be already released to the next stuff.
Mhm.
So outrun the bear.
Yeah, yeah. Completely agree. And at the end, if we start putting things together, we have someone that decides the security policy from the C level, let's say. Then we have a lot of different things, and we have to ensure that everything, or well, one, two more things. We have to decide if something goes to production or not very quickly, and we are accelerating the rhythm of deploying to the production environment, because some time ago we deployed every 2 weeks or even months. Now we start seeing companies that do the checks in each pull request, or they deploy to production several times a day. They are checking everything before going to production each time. So at the end, they apply the, let's say, the URL or the security gate in order to say, okay, is this release of the software compliant with the security policy that our CISO, and is in real time, is we detect, we analyze, we check if we are compliant, and if yes, we go to production. If not, we stop everything. And we start seeing several companies being so strict in this decision. And you cannot do this with automation. You need automation for sure. And the other thing is, if you have different tools in different places, at the end, this process of decision has to go to one place to search for some of the things, interpret the data, and adjust to the format of the policy. You go to a second tool, and it takes time. It has a lot of effort to unify or to make everything homogeneous to decide. It's very costly, and the idea is you have everything integrated. You have a policy uniform, integrated. You understand all the tools equally, so you have much more simplicity to do the check, to validate, to go no go. Is easier, is faster. Is, I think, it's my view here. I don't know if you agree or you.
I agree. I mean, and the challenge is, after all, maintaining trust and consistency for an organization. And that trust and consistency has to be from the C-level, the board decision making over the team and the development team, but then from the business to the customers. I mean, we speak a lot about security and privacy by design and by default. So the project and the way it's implemented has to reflect to that expectation and need for the organization. So this is just about it. We want to be super agile, but also super secure. So that's a lot to ask, and that has to be requiring a lot of automation to do that. And we have no other option. Otherwise, because I mean, I'm a user, and if I have an application and I see that there is a new fantastic feature on the software, I don't want to wait for it. I need it. But at the same time, I hope it's released like in the safest way as possible and respecting the privacy and the data protection. So yeah, big challenge and big consolidation is needed. But I mean, I'm glad you see that with customers as well that come to you and ask for it, because that means that they also see the demand of the good practice, doing good. So this is good rather than being like the cowboys of development and do like crazy stuff and crash everything. That guy that say like go fast and break things. Well, it's cute when you don't handle any sensitive stuff or critical infrastructure or anything. But for anything serious, you need the most efficient control you can and the most security you can while keeping your operation running. So there is no you cannot play on that.
At the end, actually, the reality, as you mentioned, okay, if you have a legacy and you have an application with vulnerabilities, you cannot consider having zero risk from the day one. But at the end, your policy is okay. It's not having any critical. It's okay. Not having any new critical issue. Okay, we are going to do a plan to reduce the risk that we have today or the security issues that we have today, but we are not going to allow any new vulnerability, any new thing, and you start working with this. And during the execution of this plan, you can check how legacy or the security posture is reducing until you reach the goal from the C-level point. But at the end, you are stopped the introduction of new vulnerabilities, new risk, new threats in the application. So
that's very ISO 27001, like continuous enhancement, like always do better, and that's the way to go, reducing the risk.
Another topic or any other benefit of having these unified platforms related to the cost of deployment or cost of operation or cost of integration across the organization and this kind of thing. Because at the end, according to our experience, for example, the cost seems small because you put a specific tool for one specific risk in a small team, another in the other part of the organization. So if you check them isolated, they small like a small cost. But at the end, when you want to scale to the entire organization and to all the projects, to all the teams, you start having they don't scale so good, and they have to the integration probably is not valid for all the type of projects, all the infrastructure or ecosystem for development they have, and you need to start doing some customizations and to adapt. And at the end, you have a lot of time to deploy and to integrate all the products, a lot of effort to customize the policies or the logic or whatever. You integrate every tool in all the projects, so you don't have one integration. You have one integration per tool. So at the end, you have more time, more effort, more things. Having an all-in-one tool reduce all this effort, all this time, because they are prepared to be integrated easier. Usually they have pre-integrations. All the integration and all the process of doing the work is homogeneous across all the organization. The escalation is by project, but using always the same approach, the same philosophy. You only need to put more machines, let's say, to do the analysis. but the policy, the management, the operation is always the same across all the organization. I don't know if your experience is different, for example, in other
Oh,
companies or.
I agree. I mean, the best advocate for that is anybody like me who went through merge and acquisition. That's the worst scenario you see when you buy a company or you merge with another one and you face totally different stacks and you realize the discrepancy, the difference between the two is so much effort to manage that in the end you realize the value of consolidation. Because once you do that from the get-go, or you're used to your environment, you don't see the bottleneck. But as soon as you get something else coming in, like a new organization, that's a big shock, like different culture, and
Yeah.
that's where the value shows. But in a way, this is also very representative about what you see when there is a new project or a new technology that is beginning in the same organization, or you got a new department that comes and they need to address some new things or new tech. If you don't have that unified approach and you didn't think about covering all of that, then it's going to be a nightmare because you create that same conflict of culture, conflict of operation that you see when you get a merger and acquisition. So people have been being through that. They know how painful it is. They know the sacrifice it represents. And when you've seen that, you make anything you can to avoid it. You want consolidation. You want that thing to be not a hustle anymore. You don't want to think about that. And also because it pays over time. As you said, you save time, you save cost, and automation make you more agile
Mhm.
and allow you to do better stuff at better cost. So it's a no-brainer, but only once you get there. Yet, I've been working in an organization that had a lot of legacy software, like very old thing. And this is happening more often when you got old industrial systems to manage, like facilities that are built to work for like 100 years, like power plant and stuff like that. And this tool, they will be isolated, they will not be exposed, but yet you need to maintain that stack. So, and that's the most challenging part because they don't really need integration since they are not connected at first. And also there is a compliance requirement. If it's like in the poorer stuff, like in North America, they got NERC requirement. If this is like any regulated vertical working, then the agility is kind of locked. And this is where they need to consider that thing. Yet, the integration of these tools still brings value because it allows to know what you have, what to maintain, and the skills you need to do that. Because the fun thing is, like, the human skill is a big challenge for organization. How
Yeah.
many people do you need to maintain that stuff? We need the developer to work on that project, but what should the developer know? And that visibility allows to define the scope of skills that are needed to maintain or work on these tools. So that's another tech that is also bringing value. If you keep that as a silo, when the old guy that was in the company for 30 years leaves and he was the only one knowing how it works,
Yeah.
then that's a nightmare. I've been through that, and I'm telling you, it's
Mm.
worth having visibility on that for the new people you try to hire to actually understand that thing. Like funny stuff. And just just that little anecdote I want to share. Once I worked in the company, I was there, and the whole network, it's a software development company. It
Mhm.
runs, they are connected with a fiber optic connection, and there is a computer in one of the data center room on the ground that lost its video card, okay? And that machine was running on a live CD, like a Linux live CD router. No
Mhm.
one know what was the configuration, but if you pull one of the network cable, everything goes down. That's a situation I've been through. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know it's not exactly like software development. It's a software development company, but
Similar, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
but the idea is if you are blind and flying blind to something, it takes a huge amount of time and analysis to try to understand what was done. That's the same thing in software development. If the tool and the stack allows you to understand how it works, even if it's outdated, even if it's legacy, the understanding capability saves you a lot of time and headache because then you can decide with the right information. Because the decision in the end is, do we maintain it? Is it still running? And sometimes it's just about segmenting it. Okay, we cannot change it because of regulation, whatever. Okay, we just decide to segment it. From the security standpoint, the security control is we decide to keep it like that. We know what we have. We know the licensing as well, because that's also one question. It's
Mhm.
over time it can change,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and we just decide that whole scope of legacy stuff is going to be isolated that way, and that's how we're going to protect it. And you can only decide that based on the right information and not on flying blind. So that's another value that you get from that. That's why I just wanted to speak about that, because that black box, when you and that you have no idea about, and you pull the network cable and everything goes down, that has been a challenging one. On my end, I figured it out, but it took many weeks of traffic analysis, packet dumping on the network, understand what the hell that machine was doing. And that was an actual bridge broadcasting point of presence of network anyway, with public IPs and stuff like that. And it was connected to the IS autonomous system, providing the web services for that company. So that was like, anyway.
No, it's very good. We had another, another also a customer with that it was doing a merge with another company also. It's another specific case that related to this mention you did regarding you change the way of working, you change the philosophy, you change everything. And this company had like something integrated doing the analysis in every pull request, everything very agile, very simple. One pull request, I click this and I have everything integrated, everything like very simple, very easy, very quick. And the other company, bigger, say, oh, no. For SaaS, we have this big solution. Okay, but but you cannot check every pull request. No. You cannot integrate with the CI/CD pipeline. You cannot. So the philosophy, the way of working was completely different. It's like, I have to do that. It's much more expensive. Yeah. So it sounds like it's worse because it's slower, it's more expensive, it's more difficult to integrate. It counts or it takes a lot of infrastructure. Yeah, but is even the idea or the problem was that it was so difficult to deploy the old solution that they wanted to remove because we have invested a lot of effort and we cannot or we don't want to remove it because probably we know how this works and we are not going to learn something new. So this topic of having silos or something that I know this part, don't touch it. It's interesting.
Know what they say, if it works, don't touch it. But that doesn't work if your stuff is exposed or if you have security or compliance. That goes through the window. That was good before.
So something related also just to move forward.
Yes.
Is like measuring. We have mentioned, for example, this, I'm going to reduce the security posture. I'm going to improve the security posture. I want to reduce the time for exposure or the time to resolution. So at the end is we have, or the C-level should measure how we improve or how the team improve. And when I say the team is developers, DevOps, security team, all the application development team in general, we have to improve the security posture, and I have to measure. Traditionally, we measure number of issues, or the severity of some issues. But now is the security is we reduce exposure, we improve the time to remove a risk, or we reduce the redeployments. If we think in DORA, for example, the 4 metrics of DORA or something like that, is like the metrics for impact in the security, not just numbers. That is more traditional, let's say. And at the end, if you have different tools, you need again a new layer that put all together, transform, adapt, convert in order to make all or the understanding of all the metrics homogeneous across the different tools. And I think that this part of having everything integrated first is easier to measure because at the end I can check all the points across all the stages of the software development lifecycle. From the beginning, I understand everything in the same way. I aggregate everything, and I have everything in a predefined dashboard to define the SLA or to check the the working plan or the security plan. So at the end, I think this is another benefit of having
Yeah.
everything integrated from the scratch.
Yeah, and for the board, I mean, it's key to know
Yeah,
the productivity and the value they get from the work. Because if you do not have unified KPI, you cannot assess what project make more money, what make more sense. Should we invest more on that side or on that side? Sometimes there is a lot of blind stuff flying, and you definitely have to unify the KPI. That reminds me of like an old thing, like where developer performance was back then measured in the amount of line of code they write. Like, basically paid by line of code, which was leading to more complex application instead of being more efficient. And so that's the kind of thing that has to be identified with automation. And in the end, like, does it make sense? Is it efficient? Is it secure?
yeah,
And is it and that's like, as you said, if you do not have the unified view, you cannot assess and you cannot take good decision because it might be totally biased, and you might end up wiping the wrong stuff and losing your benefits if you do that without having the right KPI or unified visibility over the project. So that's a big risk, because obviously every project manager will make sure that is to tell you that his project is top notch. We got the best stuff. We're so efficient. We're so flexible. But in the end, is it really working? That's what has to be measured, and this is where unifying the platform will help to have
yeah.
actually accurate visibility with the same value of the performance indicator.
Now, another example, we were in the Black Hat last year, and we meet the German company that we had some proof later, and the responsible of the DevSecOps show our dashboard, and they say that, okay, I have all the tools, but my boss, the CISO, needs a dashboard that I build now manually each week, putting some values from here, from here, from here. And the dashboard I build is that one. So can you automate that? Yes, of course. You can inject here all the data and you have everything updated in real time with each analysis, which is a scan with so yeah, this is what you mean. At the
Yeah,
end,
yeah.
the season is just the dashboard with
And for the rest of the management, if they don't know how to measure the investment of such tool, I always said to people, just measure the cost per hour of that person and the time is spent on doing that. And that's already the saving you get by removing that task to automation, on top of the quality and the autonomy you get, which is also bringing tremendous advantage and more benefit for the organization than just the time of the person. But usually, this kind of manual task, they just waste so much energy. At first, it's needed because you need control, but once you get a process and tasks start to repeat, you need automation. I think that's a rule of thumb. If you have to repeat a task monthly or weekly,
yeah,
then it's a task that needs automation.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
when I say that, I say, "Hey, crap! I have some stuff
Mm.
to do as well."
Yeah. Completely true. One another point is you mentioned at the beginning that when you have everything in silos, at the end, no one is responsible or no one is responsible for doing processing or doing things. I think that, but do you think that this unified approach simplify or support who is responsible or who is in charge of solving, managing, or doing things? Or how do you think that this having everything integrated with one homogeneous and global view support the resolution of the issues at the end?
Well, it does help, but not. It's not very obvious. But because it shifts the energy required by the people to the actual task and goal, instead of having to focus on side tasks. Basically, with like a spread responsibility, you spend a lot of time searching for information. Who was responsible to change that? Who can decide about that? Many times you go in a software team, development team, and you want to change something. I'm not the guy who can decide. You have to speak to the project manager. Project manager, no, that's the guy who worked with the customer that has to decide. Or in the situation make it that the decision making is very complex. While if you have proper visibility in the platform, the decision making is going to be really fast. You can check the the tree, who's working on that, what was the latest comic, who's involved with this, what's the impact, and then you can decide properly. And if something goes wrong, that the actual the decision is documented and tracked. So for the person in charge, there is less stress in the end. I mean, you have to give up on a little bit of micromanagement, so as you can say, okay, the responsibility is given to the process, to the machine, to the group, and so you don't have to worry too much about it. Like that's a shift. Like the hero of the group supposed to then give and delegate the task rather than owning the task to himself. That's because I've been there as well, and I'm guilty of that for many years, like doing everything myself. And in the end, when you realize that you document, you automate, and you avoid these kind of things, it's very more efficient. And when you take vacation, your phone is not ringing. And that's from a human standpoint, that's a big difference. But it's also reflecting the risk of organization. You are less dependent on manual work, which means the organization is more efficient and more sustainable in the long run.
Yeah. I will add that at the end also, or at the end, not at the end, having everything integrated, probably when you have things isolated, is the responsible check the list of findings of issues, and this is not because of my code, or this is not because of my component. Oh, the secret, I'm not responsible to change the secret. This is another one. So at the end is, okay, I reduce the things I can manage. Probably if you have everything integrated, you have one responsible that covered or has responsibility over all the security across, independently of is the code, is the component, is the configuration, is the pipeline. So is responsibility of end-to-end security process. So at the end is easier because it's okay, this is code, is for a developer. This is a component, is for DevOps or the architect. This pipeline is for the DevOps. But at the end, also the automation and the intelligence makes easier to assign the issue, to create a ticket automatically. So you with one click pass or create a ticket with all the information assigned to the specific people to solve it. So they don't need to go to the tool to analyze to do it. Solve this according to this guidance because it's affecting, and you have all the information. And the management is much quicker because it's okay. This affect, yes, click, create, click, assign, click, done. Or even the autofix probably is okay. I can solve it directly. Click autofix, create a pull request or remove change the configuration, whatever. So even you don't impact in the work of the developer. So I think this easier, this having everything integrated first, change who is the owner is one person that is responsible of all the security. And then the collaboration across the team is okay. You can distribute all the things to the appropriate people. Is my experience also.
And it brings audit capability as well, because you see and track the changes. So it's not like in a meeting where everybody's like, you should change that. Yeah, we're gonna look into it, and then a year after it didn't move. When this is integrated and tracked, you can actually see the assignation, how long what is pending, and where is it not done, etc., etc. So that's way more efficient.
Yeah. Wait, we have 5 minutes. Let's try to close. What is your view on the evolution, next step of this type of tools, just to provide the future of the evolution?
Yeah, sorry, I did get.
Sorry. Yeah, I won't mention that. We have 5 minutes just to have some time, because we have also some questions in the audience. Just to finish, we have covered a lot of different things. Just to finish, so we have talked about the benefits, why are interesting for the teams and whatever. And the thing is, just to the last point, was the next step for this all-in-one or static analysis platforms, or how do you see the evolution of these tools?
So
in general,
well, they are going to be pushed by regulation, because the laws are changing in many countries following the many incidents, and given that the technology is more and more embedded in society, we need more control and more security over that. Doesn't mean like control freak or slowing down. We need more quality control, more security. So the obvious road is automation and integration. I cannot see that any way otherwise. And from an organizational standpoint, if organization have an existing work plan and budget, because this is also often tied to investment and budget. So the way to change sometimes is to start fresh for the new project. And you implement that and you see, and when they do implement the new strategy with the new platform for new project, they will soon want the same capability for all the remaining project. So sometimes you start with a proof of concept and implement these tools, see what it brings, and start to integrate more and more the tools, and you're going to save so much time. Anyway, with the current threat landscape, the amount of vulnerability, if you saw in the news, the CVE was jeopardized by the policy in the US. It was about not to be funded, so it was about to vanish. So if you rely just on CVE publication for your security, it's not going to work. You need integrated solution that has multi-feeds, like editor feeds, vulnerabilities from many sources, threat intelligence, and configuration best practice to actually sustain a proper posture of your organization software development. And that means that this is also for your organization to survive in the future. Because if you do not do that, you're going to be slower, you're going to be vulnerable, and we know incident and they do impact companies, the trust, the image of the organization, and then they do not have investment or they do not have new customers in the end. So it's inevitable. Automation, consolidation, and even if we speak about serverless computing, people think that automation is going to solve everything by magic, but you still need these tools because you still have vulnerability, you still need code analysis, you still need analysis on memory leaks, you need that. Even if you are 100% automated, you still need to analyze the results because there is accountability. So you need to sign off that. So that's about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the main evolution is going to come through the automation at the end. It's not just to detect more things or to do more things. It's to be smarter and to remove workload to the teams in order to make the analysis simpler or quicker to do this analysis. When you say the magic is in the platform, is how I can support the decision maker, I can support the developer, I can do it. So this magic is through the automation. AI is going to support part of them, but it's not the only way to do it. There is still a lot of place to traditional automation, let's say, to do a lot of things and to do a lot of to be flexible. And I think, the idea is this way of automation to support the team in the sense of doing things without adding more work or doing things just with minimal supervision, just approving or these kind of things, just to enrich all this agility to be more secure, more agile, without the need of the developer being an expert on SQL injection or whatever. So, just silly, simple, but just to understand. So, thank you very much, Alexandre. We have some questions. Let me share. The first one is okay. The first one is how the platform handle false positive reduction, even when in collaboration environments where findings are integrated into shared development workflows. I don't know. So yes, how we reduce false positive, for example, that could apply in one environment and not in another, or something like that, is what I understand.
Yeah, well, that's more about the platform on your end because false positive, I've seen a lot. So, but the thing is, to consider about it, the false positive is what remains to be sorted about all the EV work is done. So that's kind of the easy task in a way. And also, when you get false positive detection, what happens is you create a rule for each false positive, so as the next time it doesn't happen. So usually, when you get a false positive on something, you make write the exception, and it's not coming up again. So in the end, that's like a basically learning adjustment from the platform you use, and in the end, it knows what it is, and it will not pop up. And I'd rather use false positive and check them than having to manually go through the whole thing. So that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I think that it's a matter of context. I mean, one finding could be a false positive in one environment and a true positive in another, for example, because it depends on the impact that we mentioned before. So at the end, this unified platform knows the context of each dependency. For example, if you have a vulnerability that requires internet access and you have one application that is reachable from internet, another that is deployed in a private environment, this type of application can say, okay, is a risk in this application. It's not a it's not a risk. It's not something that is very critical in this other one, because at the end it's going to be much more difficult to exploit it or whatever. Or it's only a matter of an insider or something like that. So it's a false positive. If the impact is based on the impact, and in some cases yes, in others not, based on the context that this kind of platforms knows, okay, instead of having, because if you see the vulnerability isolated just with the analysis, it's not going to be enough, okay. So this is the way to reduce the false positive. Okay. We have another question that is regarding artificial intelligence. Let me check. Is the how the platform leverage artificial intelligence to improve vulnerability detection and triage, and to enforce zero trust approach regarding how the findings are distributed across the team, share, access, or solve. Okay.
That one is for you.
Yeah, I think, well, artificial intelligence in detection, I think we are having some advances in this part. The thing is that is not, sometimes the answers could vary from execution to execution. So let's say, the trust in this type of results probably are still or have still working in progress, or some development in place. We have seen some applications in reducing the noise, but at the end is based or is trained a model to exploit the context information. Okay, so I think this is the way we are applying the artificial intelligence in the detection or reduction of noise. If you need to reduce the noise because of with some artificial intelligence, is because the detection is not very good. Okay, so it's better to reduce the false positive in the scanning process. And then the second part, my understanding, if I don't understand the question, is how I can ensure that only specific people access to a finding. Actually, there is no need to use artificial intelligence for this, because when you do the analysis, you know the code owners, or you know who put the commit in the code, so you know perfectly who did the change and who is responsible to solve it. And the visibility in the platform, you control roles, you control access to specific projects. So it's the traditional roles-based access with permissions and nothing special. And to assign and to provide access to the code source or whatever, you know who is the responsible of doing the change. So actually it's something quite standard, let's say, is my view. I don't know, Alexandre, you have another different experience on that, but
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree that that's on the platform itself. So,
yeah.
and I agree, like throwing AI everywhere is not the solution, because AI also brings some uncertainty. So unless it's well designed and trained model for the specific application, just throwing AI, like I see many people trying to implement just ChatGPT stuff, if we API in their work, but there are so many considerations around that, between protecting the data you share with it, the accuracy of the results, and who is going to be responsible for any mistake with that. That's also something to consider. So I'd be very careful with that. Like what is a basic control that's in place, as you were saying, Jesus, like role-based access control is already matching that use case already. So yeah, I mean,
And we, thank you. And we have another one that is from a technical perspective. How does consolidation or consolidating the tools of AppSec into a platform, all-in-one platform, improve vulnerability detection, accuracy, remediation, collaboration between development and security? I think that is quite aligned with the things we have been covering during the session. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking like, yeah, that's exactly what we covered. This step by step. So
no, probably it's because the question is
it
from
was
some
before.
time
Yeah, yeah.
ago, and yeah, probably. So I think yes.
That means we did right.
Yeah, well, we at least we covered the concerns of the audience. So yeah,
Yeah.
good point. Good point. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Alexandre. We have reached 7 more minutes. So thank you very much for sharing your insights, for being here with us today. Hoping to have you in another new episode of this for sure. As we have mentioned now, we have seen that unifying the application security tools is not just a matter of technical upgrade, is a change toward the clarity, efficiency, real impact, and breaking silos and aligning context and enforcing the policies by design becomes something that the teams can rely on. Okay, not work around. We hope you are walking away with ideas today you can apply immediately in your plans, in your way of working. So whether that's simplifying your tool change, prioritization, or measuring what's moved the needle, fantastic. Don't miss our next Safe talk. Until then, stay secure and thank you for being part of the Safe community. Thank you, Alexandre. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.